It's Doomfist Day, you might call it D-Day. What's going on, everybody? It's FREEDO here for your Overwatch, and it's the day we've all been waiting for. Doomfist is releasing to both the consoles and the PC, along with a lot of other cool stuff that we're going to break down here today. Doomfist does loads of cool things that we've covered over the course of him being out on the PTR. Unfortunately, those of you who didn't get a chance to play him in that state won't be able to experience the insane super jump abilities that he used to be able to do, not just leveling skyscrapers. He used to be able to leap them. The distance on his charge punch is much more reined in now, so the superhuman Doomfist that some got to play on the PTR is in a bit more, let's call it, a reasonable state. With that being the case, I'm sure many of you are jumping into Doomfist, and even with the nerfs that he got, I would say that the coverage we had on the character still is quite accurate to his playstyle. In fact, all of the nerfs that were put in sharpen his role as being a enforcer type DPS crowd control hero rather than a dive hero, because his diving capabilities have just got reduced and reduced over time. So jumping right into Doomfist, you might feel the need to rush headlong into the enemy. I'm going to advise that you play a little bit on the safe side, and you're going to have a really good time with Doomfist. The long-awaited loot box update is now coming through as well. It's a little tricky, the changes that they put through, but in short, the result of the changes that they're putting in makes it so that on average, you should be earning just as many credits, if not more, from the duplicates that you do get, but you'll be getting less duplicates that net you with more credits than before. So all things considered, a more rewarding loot box experience, because when you do get a duplicate, you're going to be making it rain cash money, and on top of that, you're less likely to get them, meaning that you're more likely to get skins that you don't have already. This is a massive change, and although there wasn't new skins added today, you have to think that if this update were in the Uprising patch, I think a lot of players would feel a lot better about how that event went down. They've heard the feedback and the roar of the community, and I think they've changed things for the better. The highlight system got a big buff, saving your top 5 plays over the last 24-hour period, just like it used to. But on top of that, you also can save your own highlights. This, of course, is going to be great for those moments that may not be so much of a big play, but just a funny thing that happens in the game. You hit your capture button, it records the last 12 seconds and puts it into the highlights, where they will be saved until the game is patched again. This is actually pretty important, so watch out for Tuesdays when they come up, because both your today's top 5 and your recently captured quick capture highlights both get removed whenever the game is patched. So patch day is Tuesday, remember that, so you don't lose your cool clips. In between patches, though, you can save up to 36 recently captured highlights at one time. And from there, you can take either form of highlight and export them and upscale the resolution to god-tier proportions, up to 4K, so you can make your cool clips look magnificent. A huge change that should not go unnoticed, it's just this measly little bullet point on the patch notes. When the patch first went live, we weren't exactly sure what this meant, but Scott Mercer did us the service of explaining exactly what this change was. If you don't know, a while back they instituted a way for the attacking team to pressure the enemy defense's respawn when they had more players on the objective. What this new change does is make all those effects happen sooner, basically sharpening that advantage that you get, making stalling even harder than it was before. It used to require 30 seconds of objective time to start, now 15. And then it went up a linear scale after that, and used to cap out at 90 seconds, but now will reach its cap at 75 seconds. The system is so intricate that it can be troublesome to try to explain, but he goes into even more detail that it does not reset to 0 if you quickly leave the objective, for example, to dodge a self-destruct, which is good. Instead, you can envision that the level of intensity of spawn disadvantage you inflict on the enemy to sort of slowly decay or increase over this window of time where it's active. He concludes by saying the end result is that stalling tactics involving defenders trickling in one at a time into the waiting weaponry of an enemy team on the objective should be less effective than before. And the entire Overwatch community lets out a resounding huzzah! For you custom game players, a handful of options have been adjusted, and more so clarified on the settings page. One odd one is that you cannot select Roadhog in limited 1v1 anymore. I suppose that's because if Roadhog is one of the selections in 1v1, if you forget, it gives each player a draft of the same 3 heroes. And if Roadhog's a selection and you both pick Roadhog, of course the whole he who hooks first dies problem is probably kind of frustrating, so maybe that's why they took it out. Not exactly sure, they don't clarify that. But moving on, stats from 6v6 are added to the career profile. Tie games will no longer be calculated into the win percentage calculation, which although ties aren't very prevalent anymore, the fact that they didn't do this in the past means that ties must have been counted as losses, because what else do you count them as? Your win percentage is your wins based on games played, so everyone's win percentage probably just went up a few points. And the big change, probably just as exciting as Doomfist, is the ability to customize reticles. Under the controls tab and options, there's a whole new world of advanced crosshair options that you can play with and either have a general crosshair like you always did, but also specify your preferences for each hero. There's a lot of good practical crosshairs that you can utilize, but also some fun ones as well if you're just trying to have a good time. The crosshair settings are a great quality of life change that I'm so glad that they finally put into the game. On to the hero updates. I love it when they add voice lines. It really keeps the game fresh, and that's what they did for Genji and Diva. Whenever they either eat or reflect an ultimate, they now let loose with the smack talk, making Diva not only really powerful, but also powerful in the psychological warfare department. McCree's flashbang change went through, and if you don't know when this first came out, I did actually make a mistake in reporting on what it actually did. Instead of reading how the patch notes word it, instead I'm going to describe the flashbang change as stopping all momentum of a character when stunned. This is incredibly different than just slowing them down significantly. This is a huge change so that characters that are either jumping or speed boost or propelling past your screen, you hit that stun, they drop like a rock. Massive change. McCree's stun is now very reliable to deal with all sorts of threats. McCree is back, baby. New crosshair, new stun. Is this a spaghetti western? Because cowboys are back, baby. Reaper's shadow step. Sound effects have been reduced by 50%? That just goes to show you how loud Reaper was before when he tried to shadow step anywhere. He basically announced it to the entire map. So now he might be able to more reliably get into those cheeky positions to get either a key flank, but even more importantly, a nasty Death Blossom from above. Edgelords unite, we're back, baby. Reinhardt had a lot of his bugs fixed that were due to latency, which is probably one of the most important changes to Reinhardt, but also his swing speed has been increased by 10%. This is going to make it easier to wail around the hammer and also slightly increase the damage per second. But I think more importantly, the ability to actually swing and hit something that you're trying to track as you flail around in a circle when that Genji or Tracer is zipping past you means that you'll more reliably be able to hit them as they're trying to attack your healers. With any luck, this might make Reinhardt feel playable in the mobility meta. Well, should we call it the mobility meta anymore? I don't think so, with so many characters getting changed, including the next one, which is Zarya, where her Graviton Surge now disables mobility abilities on all effective targets, just like a Junkrat Trap does. So that Grav Surge hits you, you're donezo. This not only makes her a lot stronger against the dive meta, but specifically changes how many maps will be played, since that Graviton Surge oftentimes is a great way to close out a checkpoint, the end of a 2CP map, etc., for its brutally overwhelming effects, and now you can't even escape it. And probably one of the biggest interactions that you should look out for is how it affects Mercy. Because before this change, I would go as far to say is that Mercy would counter Graviton because she can escape it if you try to trap her in that. You go for a big team wipe, well, Mercy's just gonna res it. She always has res up faster than Graviton's going to be. But now, you can more reliably nail down a key target with this. They just can't move. So not only just getting the big team wipes, but getting that key hero that oftentimes can be slippery, namely Mercy, is going to be a lot easier. A few bug fixes were added to this patch as well, including the very rare but odd one that allowed Reinhardt's Fire Strike to pass through a wall if it coincidentally was passing through a barrier. We covered this quite some time ago, but it was so niche that didn't break the game, thankfully, but now it's fixed. That's great. There's quite a lot of bugs, so I'll let you read them in the patch notes if you like to see if a certain bug that's been plaguing you has gotten fixed. Instead, I want to pull back to probably the most exciting part about this patch. Of course, the new hero, Doomfist, as well as a handful of changes that makes heroes that weren't really cutting the mustard in the dive meta have the ability to fight back against the mobility meta, and I think, without a doubt, even if Doomfist isn't into the competitive playlist yet, dive is kind of dying. The mobility meta has taken hits left, right, and center. And I'm excited to dig into how these changes are going to affect the game and where it's going to move, which are things that we're definitely going to be covering in the upcoming days, so stay tuned. And the best way to stay tuned is to make sure that you hit subscribe and be sure to hit the bell icon so that you get notified when our videos go live. Be sure to leave a like on this video if you did enjoy it, and leave a comment down below on what you think about all these changes that are going live into the game right now. Are you excited for Doomfist? Are you excited for crosshair gaps? Let us know. That's been it for me. I've been FREEDO for Your Overwatch. I'll see you guys next time.